Good evening and welcome everyone on the SMCB platform for a condolence and remembrance meeting in loving memory of Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya. A profound grief has filled up our moment, yet we are here to collectively express our admiration and respect for Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya, who has made indelible impact in experimental physical chemistry in India. This program has a structure. The next session will be conducted by Professor Biman Bagchi, National Science Chair Professor, where a few of his close collaborators, friends, and students would be expressing words of their admiration and respect. And then we'll have concluding session led by Suman Chakraborty. I hereby invite Professor Biman Bagchi, National Science Chair Professor, to take over the session. Professor Bagchi, please.
Thank you, Ronji, Suman, and Rajiv for doing this. These are extremely important. And as he said, we are all very sad. And the line that comes to my mind is sad as sad could be. And so I know also one thing is that this sorrow shared is sorrow halved. That means by sharing our mutual and the individual sorrow, we could come out of the grief and actually materialize it in a positive way. And I know Kankan for a very, very long time, and from the days of Presidency College. The first memory is something which is quite remarkable. Then the BSc exam results just came out from Presidency, and we are wondering who got the highest. Whether from our college we got the highest, and then there was a young man sitting there who pointed out his typical incisive way that no, you guys have got 50 mark, total of 50 less than the guy who has first class first. And so who is this guy? Of course, this Kankan, it was not a very pleasant thing. Kankan himself should know. He stood first class first in BSc and first class first in MSc. He was an outstanding student and always, very incisive character and a acute observant. As I said, we know each other for a very long time from the days of Presidency, and not only that, our families have known each other for a very, very long time. So as Ranjit said that I would go far by saying that he was probably the best experimental physical chemist that India has given birth to. Only a few words. It is so unique that he went from one system to another system. That required a lot of courage. And he accomplished a lot in everywhere. He was the first senior editor of Journal of Physical Chemistry and remained so for 13 years and made a very valuable contribution to Indian physical chemistry in his capacity as a senior editor. He was unquestionable leader of physical chemistry. Somebody, Rajiv, please mute whenever these things come. Now, so another interesting thing is about Kankan was that Kankan always looked at the very best of Indian scientists. Like he used to always talk of Sadhan Basu and compare himself and me with Sadhan Basu. And Sadhan Basu was our unquestionable leader in many ways. And then he used to always talk of C.V. Raman. And so these are kind of things which shaped his own ambition and his own understanding. And And we of course all know that he was how much connected to everybody. This is amazing, the kind of sadness people have, the kind of spontaneous. I received so many condolence meetings, and they are saying, okay, I know it's very sad for you. I know it's very sad for your family. Many people have reached out to me with their messages, and how he did that, how this person reached so many people. He spontaneously helped people. He helped enormously me and my children. And this ability to connect to people, reach out at the time of their need, a scrupulously honest and courageous man. He paid for his honesty. And it was something of a very really bright example, and that example that we are going to miss. He always, whenever I fail to express myself, I turn to my poet. And it will in Bengali, I'll translate slightly in English. And that is saying, সবচেয়ে গোপন যে মানুষ আপন অন্তরালে তার কোনো পরিমাপ নেই বাহিরের দেশে কালে সে যে অন্তর্ময় অন্তর মিশালে তার অন্তরের পরিচয়. That means that deep inside the man that resides in each of us, there is no reflection of that in the outside. You can only measure that by being intimate to that person. And that's what Kankan was able to do. He should be able to connect to people, connect to young scientists, physical chemists across the board, every state, and his extremely good friends. I called several of the guys who are going to briefly speak today, and I tried to tell them that, look, we'll be all very sad, we'll be all very, but we need to try not to be too sad, and get across the point and carry on the torch. So the way it will be conducted, the meeting, I'll call names, many of his students. It will be somewhat towards the young people who he really helped, whom he mentored. So many of them his own students, and some are my students. He always talked of Bhattacharyya Bakchi or Bakchi Bhattacharyya group. And he really it was kind of a father to both the two groups, and helped both the two groups. And one by one, and please speak 5 to 7 minutes. It is better if we, for yourself and ourselves, to, if it's more personal, professional things is really not the too much of a purpose of this meeting. It is more of personal remembrance, and the purpose is to decrease our sorrow. Only one thing before I start going, that I was talking with Ranjit Suman that we are going to do two things to carry on the torch. One of them, that we are going to, within SMCB platform, arrange for a Kankan Bhattacharyya award, and which probably will be in according to our award, and which will be accompanied by an invitation to do an award lecture in SMCB, which might grow into something bigger, but that is the modest beginning we are going to do very soon. And we'll have form a committee which will do that. So that is the thing. And I already interestingly got some reasonably good amount promised by one of his admirers. And so we'll get back to SMCB people that with a certain amount of contribution, and but it will become clear with time. So now with this thing, I will now call upon the many of the younger colleagues and some senior, those who know him for a long time. So I would like to call upon his students, Aninda. Aninda, are you there? Aninda Datta.
Yes, I'm here.
Is here, please, Aninda, can you?
Thank you, sir. And we're thankful to SMCB for having put together this platform where we can at least put our shoulders together and express ourselves. The feeling today is it grief? Is it sadness? It is. And in addition, it is more of an emptiness, because all of us who have had the privilege of interacting with Professor Bhattacharyya know very well how involved he would get with all of us at the time. I was his student. His interactions with me and others who were in the lab were not limited only to a teacher-student relationship with the lab. Whenever there was any need, he would spontaneously reach out and guide us. So it is the feeling that we really have right now is that something is missing. A major part of our lives is missing. As Professor Bakshi brought out so nicely, as we know, Swami Vivekananda had said that you are born as a human, leave your mark. Professor Bhattacharya has indeed left his mark in many more ways than one, and he has touched the lives of many, not limited to his group or his institute or his friend circle. So as a student, let me just recount what I and others have learned from him. 3 things. First is we have learned to work hard. He would not take anything less than 100% of effort on the part of the students. There was no room for laziness. There was no room for doing anything in a sloppy manner. Whatever data came out had to be absolutely correct. And that is the mark of a true scientist. Secondly, all his life, what Professor Bhattacharya has tried is to keep on asking new questions. And that is what led him to this path from one problem to another, from solutions right into live cells, as Professor Bakshi said. And finally, again, Professor Bakshi has said this already about scrupulous honesty. One thing that I will never forget is what he told us many, many times, that the primary duty of a scientist is to speak the truth and seek truth always. That was really the motto of his life. Then he took life in its stride. He would never give up. As we all know, his conviction drove him, and he always stood up for what he thought was right. However, he never really stopped or complained when things did not go his way. And at the end of a very successful career in Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, as we know, he moved to IISER Bhopal, and there he became a very popular teacher and also did some fantastic new research, played a major role in setting up of new instruments there. And for this, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all students of Professor Bhattacharya. We are eternally grateful to IISER Bhopal and Professor Vinod Singh, who is here. We are actually thinking of ways in which we can perhaps perpetuate his memory in IISER as well, in addition to other things. So to conclude, what I think, what many of us would think now is that we have got this unique opportunity to learn from a man as great as him. We will miss him henceforth, but what we have learned from him is going to serve as the guiding light for the rest of our lives. So it is up to us, his students, not only his research students, but student community in general, to take a lesson not only from what he taught us, but also the way he lived his life. It is our job to learn a lesson from it and live our lives from that way as well. That is all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anindo. Thank you very much for saying the proper words and appropriate. And I know you're very scared. Next, I'll call upon one of our youngest colleague, Professor Shobhan Sen of JNU. Shobhan, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm actually out. So I'm on a mobile network right now. So Rajiv, so because Professor Datta already talked about a lot of things which I really wanted to talk about. So maybe it's a good time to actually share some old pictures with all of you so that we really remember his smiling faces. So can I have the access to share my slides if possible?
You can share, Shobhan.
You can share.
Thank you. I hope everybody can see the slides.
Yes.
So, you know, it is what we want to really see all the time, that Sad is smiling like this. And I think this is when we were doing it in 2014, his 60th of celebration, birthday celebration. And there we had this session where we were having all his students and speaking on behalf of him, and he was listening to all of us. I think that was the time when we realized that how much we have gathered immensely from his side as a teacher, as a supervisor, as a father, I would say. In fact, this is what happens. I think, you know, when we were in PhD time, we had a little bit of, you know, strenuous relationship because we were always afraid of him. However, things started change when you actually go out of the you know, lab. And that really started here in fact 2006, when he visited along with Kinkinidip to Japan in Hara's lab. And we used to go out every weekend. And that's the first time when we listened to his song and we got mesmerized that, you know, Sir can sing like this. And we heard about all those things earlier, but we never heard his voice as such. And one night he started singing, asking Kikini that, okay, Kikini, can I sing? Can I sing? And she's saying, no, yes, you can sing. Yes, no problem. And I think that is what we started looking at what is all about, Sir, apart from his scientific world. And it really changed our you know, motivation in many, many ways. Things started even much better when I first came to Delhi and, you know, joined JNU as assistant professor. And he would probably come almost every year, twice in every year, and would come to our house, would stay, would go out to take all the foreigners to different places. And we almost probably started a kind of a, you know, travel agency, you can say, probably with this. And this is one of the time when we actually, you know, hang around together with many other people and with a smiling face. So I think I want to remember this rather than anything else. And this was actually the last, you know, travel agency business that we did together when Professor Sertz and his wife came in July 2018. And that's the time when we were actually going around to Taj Mahal and many other places. And I still remember vividly all these moments that how he's entertaining each of us, you know, in this travel. And this is the time, I think, when we cut the cake at the 60th birthday on the boat. And the most important pillars of science, I think, with whom we started gaining everything since our PhD days, I believe. And everybody loves Sir. That's no doubt about that. And that we have seen in front of our eyes in 2014. And we also love you, Sir, all the students. We are really, really fortunate to have you as our supervisor. And now it starts the most important part. We all know about this marvelous, you know, things that he can do. And it continues. And all the students at that time who were listening to him mesmerized that, you know, this is the first time probably many of us were listening also to his singing as well. And he continued with the duet songs and so on and so forth. And he also, what his entire life, he preached the love of science to all the world, all over the world. And he has also defined the identity of the institution. And I think right now, I'm sure he is playing the Luka Chupi with his favorite student in heaven, which is Kaustav Das. I think with this, I really admire that Sir will be there always with us in thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shobhan. Thank you very much for these wonderful pictures and for this sharing these memories, which is really very interesting, because I was telling Aninda that we should also smile in remembrance, because we should remember good things also. So thank you for bringing that aspect. Now I call Ranjit Viswas, Professor Ranjit Viswas for the next comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Bagchi. Infectious dynamism and indomitable spirit are the two words that I can define Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya with. Apart from an outstanding scientist, he was a wonderful person, magnanimous, always welcome young people with open hand and open heart. I received many things from him. He was like a father figure to me. Although I was not his direct PhD students, but I could always fall back upon whenever I was in troubles or difficulties. So, as this mood is somewhere where silence should rule over, I just can take the help of Tagore to express my feelings about our beloved Kankanda. Just two lines. Gopon rohi gohir prane, amar dukkha sukher gane, shur diyecho tumi. A very weak English translation of this as follows. Deep I remain in my heart and realize in somber silence that you put words in my sorrows and joys. His motivational words rejuvenated me whenever I needed. Love you, Kankanda. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Bagchi. Over to you.
Thank you, Ranjit. Thank you for those great lines of Rabindranath also. Now, can I call Professor Vinod Singh, who is a long-time friend of Kankan. Vinod?
Yeah, thank you, Viman. When I heard the news about Kankan, in fact, that night or next day, normally I talk to Viman, but I did not call anybody because I did not know what to talk. It was a shock. But I just wanted to remember him. In fact, today, after lunch in my office, I was just thinking about Kankan, and so many things were coming to my mind. I did not know what to say, what not to say. But I was highly impressed with Ranjit's email, and every English word he has written, it fits so well. What Ranjit writes, outstanding scientist. There's no doubt when I use the word outstanding, I always say no institution has more than 5 to 7% outstanding people, scientists in the country, in India. And Sanjay fits very well among the outstanding scientists. Courageous man. Everyone knows that he was highly courageous, great mentor. And that is why we have large number of his students and friends doing well, so well in the country. Inspiring teacher, no one knows better than students of ISR Bhopal. I'm just reading Ranjit's email. Loyal friend, he was very loyal. He always used to speak very high about Biman, his personal quality and his intellectual ability. Above all, a leader in experimental physical chemistry. And the next 2-3 lines what Ranjit wrote, his magical ability of spontaneously burst into singing, possibly rendered him with the unique capability of converting all sufferings into sparkling successes. People who know Kankan, they can remember it. No matter where he is, he starts singing. He never let anybody what kind of sorrow he has inside. I got to know Kankan very late. I invited him to come to ISER Bhopal as a JC Bose chair professor. Very few people visited that time, and he was one of them for a few months. After that, I invited him to join ISER Bhopal as a visiting professor. I like to tell people that he never applied. I never believe any outstanding person should apply for anything. And no one better than Biman, who knows, who is a distinguished honorary professor at IIT Kanpur, where we went out to him, requested him that you come and become distinguished honorary professor. So Kankan came, and he spent number of years. He joined in sometime in 2016, November or December. I made all the arrangements. We are struggling because our campus was in construction. He taught a course, and people can find videos where he used to sing. One thing I like to mention that he became very much emotionally close to me. My wife used to make some laya, he was very fond of this laya and chana, which I also used to eat our house. Every time my wife will make with big dabba and send it to him, because that time our guest house was not ready. I think he was staying in very transit accommodation. And every time he'll say, he used to treat my wife as a sister. I also like to mention about the contribution of Kankan. His integrity level, very, very high. I don't think anybody can match it. People in Bhopal, the restaurant people, the dhobi walas, dhobi was there, the guy who used to, iron his clothes and clean and all that. Every time the guy will tell some problem, and Kankan will give 100, 200 rupees in addition to what he was paying. He was always concerned about the country. Every time he will talk to me, and there are a lot of WhatsApp he has been sending in last 3 months. And of course, one thing was very common in the end. We know you are the only one who can save the country, who can do something. Last time I talked to him on 2nd or 3rd November, I was in Kolkata, and we discussed a lot. And I was confident that he may come out, but he never let me feel that he's having so much problem. When I became chairman, governing council of ICS Kolkata, he called me and he said, you don't do anything for me, because he had some issues. I told him, I cannot do anything for you. And I thanked Tapas, who on our advice was able to clear his medical benefits and everything, because that I felt was very, very important. But I like to mention his integrity level was so high, but I don't think any blame or anything anyone can do it. And we always love him, remember him, and I convey my condolences to his family, to his friends and well-wishers. And I agree we should do something for Kankan. I also like people from ISER Bhopal, but that they should establish something in name of Kankan, so that his name is always alive. Thank you. I also like to mention one thing. One person he always used to praise as an experimental physical chemist is Professor J.P. Mittal. Of course, Biman was his friend, but among the experimental physical chemists, he had high regards of J.P. Mittal. And whenever I have been going for any meeting, any academy meeting, sectional committee or council, I'll have a closed door discussion with Kankan and take his advice. I assure you, I cannot share, but he was very, very honest. He was never biased to anybody, even if they were his students. He always tells, this person is good, this person is so, fair, and things like that. So with this, I always remember, and I don't think I will ever forget Kankan. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Vinod, we must tell you that whole community, entire community of physical chemistry experimentalists and theoreticians and even other guys are so grateful to you for, you really looked after Kankan. And you did it, and that itself was a courageous act. And we always, among ourselves, we always really praise you, and we are very grateful to you. In this emotional moment, I want to express that. So thank you for all that you have done. Next, I would like to call Natarajan. Are you there? Professor Natarajan? I think probably having internet problem. Can I call Dr. Prakashpati?
Yeah, I am here.
Okay. Yeah. Can you Prakashpati ji, can you
Able to
yeah.
You are able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. See, I joined DST in the year 1989 when I was handling the program of lasers and optics, PhD on lasers and optics, where Professor Kankan was having at that time a major project on second harmonic generation related to second harmonic generation, about 45-50 lakhs. That's where my first encounter with Professor Kankan. That project was a time, it was early 90s, where the devaluation of rupee dollar, was happened, and as a result, the cost of the equipment was increased by about 25-30%. That led to, of course, delay of purchasing the equipment, and that resulted in audit para. The government parlance, if you have not, according to the finance, if you not spend that money in time, that means you are not utilizing the funds efficiently. So that led to a audit para. Essentially, that had PI purchased well in time, we could have saved about 10 lakhs of that money. So that we essentially, of course, we means DST. In fact, when I was the one who was essentially piloting it. So we interacted with Professor Kankan and then justified because we didn't give money, DST didn't give money in time. So that's why the delay, and the project led to a lot of publications. And that year he also got Bhatnagar Award. So we justified. Eventually, after some years, that the audit para got essentially dropped. So that was my first interaction with Professor Kankan. Then later on, DST established many femtosecond laser facilities. In fact, Professor Dr. Vinod said, Dr. JP Mittal was the chairman of that committee, and we established many facilities. Professor Kankan was IACS was one of the facilities. In fact, that helped him to branch into many areas, particularly so-called biological water. It led to a lot of applications. In fact, among the laser facilities which is supported by DST, I would say Professor Kankan's facility was most well run and produced a lot of output in terms of collaborations, papers, and all these things. Then when I went to due for promotion to scientist G, in fact, I asked Professor Kankan, can you send some write-up on femtosecond lasers, spectroscopy, femtosecond spectroscopy, and all. He did send some reprints. And also he wrote a mail, which that was actually more impressive. He says in one mail, one paragraph, one page, he said what is the basics of fast dynamics, picosecond, femtosecond, and what is the things which are things. So actually it was really helpful for me to prepare the interview. Of course, when I got promoted to scientist G, he always used to address me both in mail as in personally. He said Pragaspati G. That I still very, very well remember. Of course, his multi-personal, multi-dimensional character, all of us know. Apart from, of course, his PC Ray and Sir C.V. Raman and all other this thing, he told one incident which I don't know whether many of you are aware. He said, Vani Jaram, when he sang for the Gudi, I think the song, why she could not establish her domination, so-called domination in Hindi movie. But he was Lata Mangeshkar and other group, essentially made sure that she couldn't succeed. The thing is, he knows, and also Satyajit Ray's many accomplishments. He goes into a deep and analyze, and then he makes the observations. It was really good. In fact, I personally, apart from my professional career in DST, you interact with many people. Over the years, you develop some liking and admiration for among many of them, some people. And I rank Professor Kankan is one of such person. In fact, he is very kind to me. We have a lot of common discussions. And he also attended my daughter's wedding reception in Delhi. In fact, and we used to discuss with the bureaucrats versus scientists how to handle the programs in scientific program. Of course, yes, my admirations to me, but then we used to talk very critical. He always asked us, Professor Vinod said, he's always fair. The one good thing is he's always fair. He has served in committees where I was handling. He doesn't differentiate between, of course, his student and other student. He's always fair. Of course, he makes his comment. He's very nice. Of course, we all miss him. My only thing is let him soul rest in peace, and we'll take his legacy forward, all of us. Okay, thank you, Professor Bakshi. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Vakashpati. I know that you helped Kankan very much because he always mentioned that.
In fact, yes, the JPC thing. One thing I forgot to tell you is JPC, that special issue. He has mentioned my name, but he's the one who sent me that reprint. And we talked. I was at my native place. We talked close to an hour about all the various things. I told him that I will come and meet you, but he was not very encouraging. He said, "No, we'll exchange through mail, WhatsApp." But it's I feel sad that I didn't go and visit him.
He mentioned to me that he went to your daughter's marriage.
Yeah.
That he mentioned to me.
I really feel that, and I could have maybe gone 1 month before to see him.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, Kankan was like that. That was he always downplayed his own interests, but he always looked after other people.
Yeah, I also didn't expect that his end will be so sudden. Maybe.
Yeah, that is really shocked all of us. Really shocked all of us. It's kind of, we are not really prepared for it. Can I call upon Biman Jana?
Hello.
Biman.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Really tough to right now to talk about Professor Bhattacharyya because we all are in great emptiness. It's also really difficult to accept that he is no more. But still, I'll try to share my memories of Professor Bhattacharyya in this platform. I first came to know about Professor Bhattacharyya during my days as a master student. At the time, we used to hear that Professor Bhattacharyya, a scientist, is pursuing some important work in the area of spectroscopy. I should say that at that time, I really did not have a great understanding of the work he was pursuing, but he was a great inspiration to us at that time. After that, I joined as a PhD student at ISC Bangalore. And I should say that I am fortunate that I got introduced to the field of solvation dynamics in biological system in the lab. And I still remember that during those days, I had to read through most of his important contribution in the field. And also my supervisor, Professor Biman Bakshi, used to mention about his work to correlate our results often. So that is the time actually I kind of understood the glimpse of the huge contribution Professor Bhattacharyya made in the field of solvation dynamics. And then I went for a brief postdoc and started applying for jobs. And among other places, I also applied at that time to the ISCS, where he was the director of the institute at that time. And he actually hired me at ISCS. And I am really, really grateful to him for the same. Like all other young faculties, I was also starting my journey at ISCS. I still remember he even taught me how to write a joining letter itself. He helped me enormously as a senior colleague and also as a mentor to ride through the anxious time I was going through at the initial days at ISCS. During this time, he slowly became Kankan to me from Professor Bhattacharyya. He always used to tell me that publishing first paper as an independent scientist is the most important milestone, as this involves a slope of infinity. This actually kind of I understood when I actually published my first paper. And I thought that, okay, I published my first paper, let's inform Professor Bhattacharyya about the same. But believe it or not, actually he's the one who called me and congratulated me about my first paper before I could start to call him. And that is the time actually I realized that how much he cared about the success of young colleagues in the department and probably everywhere else. Whenever we used to talk, he was always sharing about the new result he was getting in the lab. He was so enthusiastic about the new result. That is something actually to learn from him. And it was really learning experience for us. And eventually, while discussing, we actually started collaborating. And this is I'm a great fortune that we could start collaborating and also work on some of the aspects of the solvation dynamics with Professor Bhattacharyya. Every time we were doing this discussion, I could see his passion. And that is actually fabulous. And that charged me up most of the time. So also I should just say that during this whole time, he used to always share his experience about both academic as well as non-academic issues in life. Any problem, he was just one call away. His enormous ability to help others through difficult situations is a signature that how great a human being he was. Those lessons are invaluable to me and helped me a lot to ride through the difficult situation in every front of my life. It will always remain with me forever, and I'm truly thankful to him for the same. I'd like to just share one small moment. I think I should share. Myself, Ranjitda, and one of our senior colleagues actually went to see him at hospital on his very last day. And I should say that we are really fortunate that he could recognize us and we could see how happy he was to see us even in his time of great pain. Actually, he asked at that time that in Bengali, "Kemon acho?" That means, how are we? And I cannot really express the feeling of that very moment. Anyway, Professor Bhattacharyya is an inspiration, a great colleague, a caring mentor, and above all, a very special person to me. Kankanda, you will always be with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bimal. Thanks a lot for this very, very emotional and moments that you shared with us. Kankan always, you reminded me one thing that Kankan always used to tell, and you must have heard it. Whenever I used to complain that, I'm telling this and this guy is not listening or something, Kankan will always say one thing: let him hear who hath ear. And that's a very interesting, again and again. So your comments reminded me that you heard what Kankan told, and that's probably, it's a biblical thing, but he was very fond of, uttering. He used to do many, many interesting things. Something he used to turn around things, and I don't want to say too many of those. Now, Can I call upon Professor Natarajan, who was a good friend and a real admirer of Kankan? Natarajan.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Bakshi. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. What can I say about Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya? I get to know him maybe about 20 years back. And then we had been very, very close. And see, one of the hallmark of Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya was in any meeting or even in a gathering, he would always go and meet and talk with many, many members, young, middle-aged, old age. He was always very sociable and very pleasant. I have not seen him really, making a sly remark about somebody in a meeting or put somebody down in any of the gatherings. He has always been very positive, and he had always encouraged people to do very well. So this is something which I think is very rare quality. And I'm really, really fortunate to meet and interact with him. And later we were together in many different committees. And every time having Kankan there in any of the meetings, and immediately the mood of the entire committee elevated to a much higher level. There is never a dull moment when Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya was around. So that is something which, not many in India, especially in the scientific realm of things, are capable of, which is a very unique quality of Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya. The another thing which always stood out was his sense of history. I was very fortunate to listen to one of his expositions on ISES. Not many people can give that kind of a lecture, where the ISES originally started with a few historical pictures, and then some of the brilliant anecdotes he gave, and how the whole place came about. That is something which I wish Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya wrote it down as a small volume or something. That would have helped, because it's alas it's a bit too late, I suppose. But I really admire Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya for his excellent relationship with the history of the place and the history of the science in India, etc. We had many a discussion about that. The third aspect, which I always admired, especially when we were sitting in committees and we have a dinner outside or sometime dinner after that, we would come and talk about science and then what direction science need to take, etc. Then around 10, many of you would probably be aware, he's a fabulous singer. And then he will start, singing, and then, we'll have very, very nice time. As I said, when Kankan is around, you never feel low at all. You are always, feel happy, joyous, That is something which is very, very unique. And that is something which all of us would miss with Professor Kankan Bhattacharya's demise now. And as I said, that personally, he had given many an advice to me. The one which always stood was, he said, whatever you deserve, you will get it. The one thing you have to do is just lie down and work and work and work. Which I think it took time for me to really understand the meaning of it and to realize the significance of that you just keep low and then work hard in your area of research. And wherever he was there, he was always very helpful to me. So I would always miss him in that particular moment. And he had always called me, if I can use the exact word, my best younger brother. So this is something which I would cherish with Kankan, and the many wonderful memories we had. I was very fortunate to participate in his 60th birthday celebratory symposium, and I was very lucky to be invited to contribute an article for the first script on his 65th birthday. I would really cherish those moments, and it would be a personal loss for me when next time when we go to Calcutta, and if he's not there, or go to Bhopal, he's not there. That would be something which would take time for me to understand and then realize. So I really, feel really deeply about Professor Kankan many times. And I really thank Professor Bakshi to organize this meeting and then given an opportunity for me to share some of my thought about Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya. And I'm thankful to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Natarajan. I know how deeply you admire and loved Kankan, and we spent many hours discussing Kankan, and really it's very, I always looked for you for emotional support, and you were always there. And thank you for these comments. Now, is Sravani is there? Sravani?
Yes, I'm there.
Can you say a few words?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, obviously, just like others who knew Kankan Da, as we always called him, this is a very difficult job for me. The very first memory that I have of him is Kankan Da took us to the coffee board in IISc Bangalore. I was just a first year PhD student at that time, so it is about 30 years back. And he showed us what nonlinear spectroscopy is. And he was writing down the expansion and showing us how exactly one would have some SHG response from a system. So that was the very first memory that comes to my mind. And of course, it's a professional one, and I have interacted with him professionally so many times. But I would like to, since everybody is talking about the many aspects of his life, I would like to share some 2-3 very personal moments that I shared with him. One was just after Kinkinidhi passed away. I was sitting with him in one corner of, I don't remember which place it was, but he was sitting alone, and he was a little unusually, he was quiet. So I went and sat with him, and I was asking him, how are you managing? And he told me not everything can be shared. Do you know that? So yes, that was one moment when Kankan Da was not singing, not really trying to liven up things. So his sorrows were very personal ones. And so I think we should also keep that memory of him, where his smiling face will always be with us. And I made 2 long travels with him. One was, I was traveling from Madurai to Karaikudi. He was a PAC member, and I was going there to defend my very first DST project. And the other time was when we spent quite some time at IIT Patna in 2012. In both, on both the occasions, he was always talking about Jhiri Jhiri Alu Bhaja, Shonamugher Dal, আর সাদা ভাত. So that is a quintessential Bengali taste in his lunch menu. And obviously that was not available, especially at Karaikudi. So that is something that I really kept with me, that that is the Bengali aspect of Konkunda, which we do not usually see. And finally, another very personal part. So that was his quick wit. In Patna, somebody approached him and said, I'm looking for a suitable alliance for my son. So do you have anybody in mind? So Konkunda was really thrown out of track. And for once I saw that he is searching for an answer. Then he looked at me and said, Shravani, you have a daughter, right? And then he immediately started. My daughter was about 10 years old at that time. He immediately started. Okay, hello, sir. This lady's daughter, you might consider as a possible bride for your son. So the entire thing was so hilarious. And the hilarious part was that anybody could approach Konkunda with a proposal like that. But anyway, with his quick wit and the big broad smile, that was his hallmark. He really batted well, even on that queer pitch, like always. So yes, I'm going to miss the only editor that I could call up and yell at when my paper was not getting a favorable reviewing. So yes, Konkunda, I'm going to miss you. And I'm going to miss the chance that I never got of serving you Shonamuger dal, chiri chiri alu bhaja, আর সাদা ভাত. Thank you, Professor Bakshi, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Shravani, the always the eloquent Shravani. It's very nice memories, and you made us remember. You reminded us many aspects of Kankan. Kankan, on a couple of occasions, he actually cooked for me. Didn't allow Kinkini to do. Just really amazing. I don't want to go too much detail into that. We noticed that Professor Saurabh Pal is in the audience. We are very lucky and very fortunate. This has been arranged in a very short notice, because I was so terribly sad, and everybody was so terribly sad. I thought that we were sharing these memories. I think our sorrow will be a little bit lessened, and we'll be able to go ahead. I would like to call Saurabh Pal, Professor Saurabh Pal, director of many places, and it will say a few words. Saurabh?
Yeah, thank you, Vivan. It's really a very sad day. When I heard, actually, I was in Jammu when I came to know on 10th evening this news. So a lot of things go in my mind. In fact, I was kind of met him actually a few months before, when I really thought that he was not only in a very good mood, and I thought he would live longer than what happened eventually. He of course explained to me his problem and how hopefully the chemo will work and he can stay longer. But I think destiny had some other way of taking him from all of us. But I think he will remain with all of us. I remember my personal things about Kankan, that when I was doing MSc in chemistry at IIT Kanpur, he joined actually in IIT Kanpur, 2-year masters. Many people may not remember. And then very quickly he left for Kolkata, completed his masters in Kolkata. But destiny was such that we met again at ICS. In fact, it is very interesting to note that we joined for the PhD program at the Indian Association on the same day. I still remember it was 15th April, 1978. So almost 45 years that I know Kankan. And then we grew up together at the cultivation of science. There are so many things happening. So many people were there, and the physical chemistry and the cultivation was growing. In fact, during our time, there are lots of good students. I must say that Indian Association produced their alumni, and Kankan was probably the best of them. He was, of course, very sharp, very intelligent, as many of you have said. His BSc, MSc marks apart, I could see, his sharpness in picking up things. That was very, very important. that he will actually pick up the essence of the problem. And of course, all of you know he was a great singer. He used to make fun of many, many small things like cricket, football, very, very interested. He used to always tell me, because of my love for Australian cricket, he would always tell me, I'm Greg Chappell. I still remember, in the last days also, he told he was Greg Chappell. So he had really the sense of humor, which I used to like. He had a tremendous sense of humor, singing this, and we even contested elections. Many people of you may not know, many of you, that we contested election at the ICS. Of course, Kankan won. That was the student president's election at ICS, and both of us were PhD students. So we really grew up. And later on, after 2-3 years, I had the privilege of being hosted by him in his house in USA when he was doing his postdoc. I was also doing postdoc in Florida. I went to New York area for visit with my wife. So I and my wife stayed with Kankan family for one day. It was really wonderful. And then I learned that he cooks very well, actually, at that time. It was 1986, 86 or 88, I think 1986. I don't exactly remember. And, since then, of course, he went to several places, he came back. And after that, it became more of professional contact, because I was in Pune, he was in Kolkata. We kept meeting in various committees. It was really wonderful. We had particularly meetings during our CSIR, Inspire, so many things. But he has remained a very, very good friend. Forget about his things that all of you have told, his great physical chemist. What is important to me is that he was a great human being. And I think not many times you get such a great human being, great researcher, as all of you have already noted, but great teacher at the same time. Vinod talked about his teaching in ISA Bhopal, but I have experienced his teaching at Cultivation of Science itself. One day he was explaining to me later in the single molecule, and the way he explains is really wonderful. And I could see that he was a great teacher. And I think he quite rightly met so many friends, students, mentoring so many students was really great. I mean, people, many of the students actually spoke today. And I think great school of physical chemistry that he built. By far, as everybody said, probably the best experimental physical chemist in the country. There's absolutely no doubt. I feel very sad, when I met him. He was very jovial, but he told me that the end will come anytime. I asked him, why do you think so? Doctor is telling you can recover. He said, no, everybody's telling, but my mind says that it may come anytime. So be prepared. I could not imagine somebody had that courage, to talk like he did. It was really amazing. 45 years, I know him, and I'm sure he will live in my heart for many, many more years. My condolences to him, to his family, on his untimely death. A great loss to this country. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Shumon. I know you guys have a long, long way back. You're a student together in cultivation. So you have known him. You are probably the only one here who have known him at such a young age.
Yeah, probably the longest, I think, 45 years back.
I have seen him and probably spoken a few times. He was 1 year junior to me in presidency, but that cannot be called friendship.
I remember you came that time. You were probably Dev Shankar's classmate, if I remember.
Right.
He used to come to ICS.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting because, Kankan would always find me out and take me out for ginger lemon tea. Must have taken you also.
Yeah. And we had walked to Gadiahat many times, really.
Right.
Of those
really,
days.
The friendship that he had and time for friends, this is something is amazing. This is something very sad. So I thank you very, very much, Saurabh. Now, can I call Saptarshi? He's one of his early students and also who has kept a very close contact with Kankan, even in the end period. Saptarshi, are you there? I know you're traveling.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are traveling.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
I'm in Kolkata. Okay. Thank you, sir, and my colleagues at SM Bose for organizing this. Everybody has said so many things about Bhattacharya was, but for me, I was very lucky. Perhaps I was the luckiest among all the students because I had the longest association with him. First, as his own PhD student from 2001 to 2006. Now, as a student, of course, we learned everything from him to do science with integrity, honesty. And one thing that I would say is that he had an envious memory. He used to, crack joke and say that, his hard disk cannot be formatted. He has such a photographic memory, and he was extremely intelligent. Then, post 2016, when our then director, Professor Vinod Singh, he was a very timely friend of Professor Bhattacharya. He called him. He invited him to join ISA Bhopal to be one amongst us. There he set up very impressive spectroscopic instruments. And he was a wonderful teacher, as some of us were saying. And I have no inhibition to share one of my experiences. I had to teach one of his courses, which he was teaching biophysical chemistry. And he left just before the mid-semester examination. And we had a mid-semester review given by the students, and there one of the comments told, Professor Bhattacharya, please come back. So after me teaching the course for 3-4 days, when I saw that SRS, I was a bit sad. But at the same time, since it was for my academic guru, I learned a lesson that I should teach better than him. Only then the students can be satisfied. He was extremely intelligent person, and just a small story I would share. After joining ISA Bhopal, I went to Delhi for some personal work, and then I learned that day Professor Bhattacharya happened to be in Delhi for some INSA lecture, and I attended that lecture. And I saw Shobhan there, and after the lecture was over, if Shobhan recalls, he was supposed to drop him at the airport, and I had no work. I also hopped him in the car, and his GPS was not working. Even Shobhan was new to Delhi and he did not know the roads well. And the map said that we had to drive west. And we could not figure out where was west, in which direction. And we were quite lost, but he was so intelligent. Within seconds, he told the sun is setting that side, so on. So that is west. So to us, it was, if you recall now and think that it is obvious, yes, that is west. But it did not strike us. That was his intelligence. This is just an example. In 2016, he joined ISA Bhopal, and we all remain thankful to our director, Professor Singh, because he gave him the platform, and he shared sometimes very recently also that perhaps it was his best tenure of his life. He was extremely happy there. And many of you perhaps don't know he wanted to settle in Bhopal because he liked Bhopal so much. He told Shaptoshi, you are there, Madhumita, my wife is there, my children are there, the colleagues are there, everybody. The Department of Chemistry gave him a very nice time, and a lot of respect at ISA Bhopal. He was teaching to his heart, he was singing, he lived very well, and then suddenly his brother expired in February 2020. So that was the third phase, as a well-wisher. Perhaps some of you know that almost on a daily basis from 2020 to 2022 November, I had been interacting with him, taking about a concern about his whereabouts. Today, I feel it's a void for me, as if something is missing. I don't have a very important work. Just a couple of days back, my son, he asked my wife that my children used to call him Sar Dadu. So Mama, is Sar Dadu is one of the stars there? And my wife told, yes, Riddhu, he is the brightest one. So, sir, I know you are a star and ground. Stay happy wherever you are. We'll all miss you. We love you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaptoshi. Yes, you have been with Kankan for so long, and you have taken care of also, given company all through, even in his difficult days. We all know that, and we all used to contact you to get information. Now, I think with these, the formal part is we are come to an end, but there is one thing everybody has spoken about is his ability to sing. So Suman, Ranjit, and myself, we thought it will be appropriate to end this meeting with some songs by Kankan, and Suman has put together some of them, and he will play those songs now in our loving memory, and the many happy hours, many happy moments that Kankan gave us through his humor and his songs. Suman, can you play them now?
Thank you, sir. So as Professor Bakshi has pointed out, no event involving Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya would be complete without his own voice. As Ranjit has nicely put, he's spontaneously bursting into singing. So what we have done, we have prepared a small collage of some of his songs, and which covers a wide spectrum of mood. So let us now listen to Professor Kankan Bhattacharyya for a few minutes. So I'll just share the screen. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes.
रात हंसी ये चाँद हंसी तू सबसे हंसी मेरे दिल भर रात हंसी ये चाँद हंसी तू सबसे हंसी मेरे दिल भर और तुझे से हंसी तेरा प्यार तू जाने ना ए नयन दरे दरे प्यार में है जीवन की खुशी देती है खुशी कोई गम नहीं प्यार में है जीवन की खुशी देती है खुशी कोई गम नहीं मैं मान भी लूं कभी हार तू माने ना ये नयन डरे डरे याद आ रहा है तेरा प्यार हो याद आ रहा है तेरा प्यार हमें और जिनकी चाहत न होती हमें और जिनकी चाहत न होती अगर तुम न होते हमें और जीने की चाहत न होती अगर तुम न होते दर्शन दो घनश्याम ना तो मोरी आँखियाँ प्यासी रे दर्शन दो घनश्याम ना तो मोरे आँखियाँ प्यासी रे दर्शन दो घनश्याम.
Thank you. Thank you. Now it is over to Professor Ranjit Biswas.
Ranjita, you have to unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, to be with us today for this Remembrance gathering. The final curtain comes in. We'd like to let you know the next activities planned in some coming time, what we're going to do to keep Professor Kankan Bhattacharya's memory alive. Thank you all.